Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. I'm here with a couple of Mike's Instant movie reviews that are kind of been in the can. They've been in my mind, but not on my lips. So let me just get right into it. I saw Breaking a couple of days ago. This film reminded me of a Denzel Washington movie from 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was John Q. John Q. Public. Basically, a guy who takes over a building, um, and but he's a good guy, and so this story is apparently based on a true story of a gentleman named Brian, who was a military veteran, I think, of the Afghanistan war. And basically he's gone into a bank with a bomb, so he says, to get some attention to his situation, and all he wants apparently is the money from the VA that he feels they owe him, and they probably do, and the bureaucracy and so forth uh, that he's talking about is pretty relevant because a lot of people have experienced that. I've had friends that are military veterans; they've experienced the runaround from the VA. I'm sure it can be very frustrating, and it brings up all those issues. You go out in public these days and you see people holding up cardboard signs, and you don't know if they're legitimately homeless or some of them are running the scam or whatever. But then you have a lot of people like this character, this real life guy, Brian, who served for our country, did his part, and he's getting the shaft. So, about this movie, I mean, I did like the movie. The good performances all around. I mean, a lot of actors who I'm sure are having, better careers than I am, but I wasn't terribly familiar or starstruck with anyone in this thing, but I thought everybody did a good job. And I think the movie was successful in what it's trying to do. So I think it's worth seeing. Is it like you got to go see it? No. Could you watch it at home? Sure. But I thought it was decent. Now, I want to talk about a movie that I might have to see again at some point, although this is the problem with Medieval. Medieval's coming out about 3 or 4 months after. I think it was called The Northman, The Northman, The Northman. Um, and both I mean, look, I don't know the exact centuries or the exact countries or the exact conflicts or whatever the fuck, but both movies are like that swashbuckling, medieval sword play, stab a guy in the chest, chop a guy's leg off. And I do like those type of movies, but I like them about every 3 or 4 years. Something, Gladiator, where Mel Gibson was doing some good ones. What did Mel Gibson do? The William Wallace thing. You don't take my freedom. So I like those movies every 10 years or every 5 years. But to have two, the Northmen, kind of at the beginning of the summer, and now this one, if this one came out first, Medieval, I probably would have liked it a lot more. And if I had seen it on a bigger screen, because the movie cinema experience, I'm very finicky. I like seeing movies on the biggest possible screen there is. So when a movie is kind of put on a smaller screen, it doesn't make me as happy, if that makes any sense. So what else? The next movie I would say, well, I'll keep talking about Medieval. Medieval's good. I guess it's based on true events, true stories. Catherine is in this. I did conk out a couple of times during the movie, to be honest with you, which is pretty amazing considering the amount of violence and stuff in this thing. But I also found myself kind of struggling to keep up with the story. It's one of those stories that I wish someone had kind of told me more about it before I went to see it, because just the who's on whose side and who's trying to do what, it was a little convoluted, and I'm not a historical documenter of all these things. Eric V's checking in. I'm anti-Semitic, so it's hard to enjoy movies nowadays. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I don't know if that's a Mel Gibson reference or not. Maybe it is. As you remember, he had some issues a while ago. And funny, I saw Mel Gibson in a movie with Mark Wahlberg, the Pastor movie, the whatever the fuck it was, earlier in the year. Uh, I understand, buddy. Just for the record. Um, if there's any other topics or questions or queries you have, please do. I did have a longtime viewer, Michael AJ, requested I speak on this wrestling topic, which actually might be of somewhat of an interest to the general populace, because we're talking about, or AJ was asking me my opinion. Apparently, Stephanie McMahon is rumored to want to induct her own father, Vincent McMahon Jr., into the WWE Hall of Fame in the 2023 thing. Now, the WWE Hall of Fame, I guess the last 15 years or so, has become a bigger and bigger deal for WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment fans. At times in the early days, the Hall of Fame was a little jokey. I mean, they inducted guys like Pete Rose, who had a marginal WWE experience, and that was just kind of a reference to the fact that he never got into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think they inducted Drew Carey because he just had one match in the Royal Rumble in 2000. But in recent years, it's become a more serious thing. You know what I mean? This whole WWE Hall of Fame stuff. Maybe you give some credit to that to the Ultimate Warrior, who was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, and then just a few days later passed away. So people kind of, took that as a serious thing, as they should. I was a big fan of Warrior. So now we look forward to this 2023 thing. And, should Vince be in the WWE Hall of Fame? I mean, it's kind of one of his inventions, like the WWE Hall of Fame has always been the Vince Hall of Fame. Apparently, he's told the wrestlers over the years to not thank him in their Hall of Fame speeches, and some have done that anyway. But he apparently says, don't mention me during the Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah. So what's been presented to us, I'm not an insider, but what's been presented to the general wrestling or WWE fan is Vince doesn't want to be in the hall. He doesn't want to be mentioned at the Hall of Fame when other people are getting indoctrined. Does that mean he doesn't want to be indoctrined himself? I don't know. I do kind of feel like if I were Vince, which I'm not, but just watching this guy for a long time and his patterns of behavior, it kind of feels like Vince would take this almost as an insult. Like, oh, you're putting me in the Hall of Fame, you're putting me out to pasture. And I don't think Vince wants that. I think the other thing is if they do put him in the Hall of Fame, you're going to have increased scrutiny or discussion about the non-disclosure acts or the non-disclosure agreements that were signed that led to Vince retiring. So I think it's one of those things where probably the logical thing is not to do it, but they probably will do it because it's WWE and they do what they want. So I can see them doing this. I can see them putting Vince in the Hall of Fame. I guess Stephanie wants to be the one to indoctrinate him. Really shows that Shane, the son, has been kind of dismissed by the WWE. The son of Vince McMahon has not had the same love from the wrestling world of WWE, that is. He's really just been the son that's not mentioned. And his, Stephanie and her husband, Triple H, or Paul, as Dave Meltzer would call him, they always get more credit and love. So there you go. What else? It's a Friday morning. There's things to do. I know everyone's got to do their thing. I appreciate Eric V checking in. I know this was a very spontaneous kind of broadcast. That's how I do things here. If you're wanting more of this Mike Messier stuff, you have to click your notifications, click your little bell, subscribe, and just check in with the channel every couple of days or every day just to see what I'm up to. There's many videos on here. A Word I Hate, I think, is a very underestimated series of videos. I have everything organized nicely on playlists. Okay. Mike's Instant Movie Reviews, the Pro Wrestling Rants, the AEW clips, the Messier Mantras, Mike's Original Fucking Films. So everything I do is clearly organized for your benefit and your convenience. All you have to do is simply watch, okay? So there you have it. In fact, you could help me out. You could just put your TV on or your YouTube on and leave. And just leave it on my channel all day so I get all those watch hours. Okay, folks, so that's it. Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Have a good day. Go to my website and buy my books.